Welcome to Connect with Purpose. Today we are joined by Marco, who's the CEO of Etna Research, a firm which is doing something a little different. I'm really looking forward to the conversation, Marco, to talk about your work, your vision with Etna, and your view on AI, automation, and the future of finance. So I think let's just get started. And perhaps you'd like to give our listeners a introduction on, your journey so far, how you've gone from studying in Milan to trading on both the buy and sell side to starting this firm and what you're doing now.
Well, Augusta, thanks first of all for inviting me. We have met each other many years ago, and we still talk a lot about business and finance. So I'm very glad to join this podcast. So moving next to a little bit my background. Yes, I'm Italian. I did my PhD in Milan, and actually half of it in London at Cass Business School. So I've been exposed to what everybody know about, the London financial service life or lifestyle in a way. So the reality is long hours and passion for what you do, and it's been always I would say my clear pattern over the years in London. So I've been through different shops, big and small, incumbent and radical innovative. I've been, big banks. So I started with Citi. I joined Horizon, which at the time was a multi-pod hedge fund business. I had the pleasure to push the innovation in a robo advisory business called Money Farm for a couple of years. And then I had also the chance to launch an ML macro hedge fund at Lumen Capital. So I've been, again, to sum up, across the buy side, sell side, very hardcore innovation, and let's say much more a mix of digital and traditional tools. And after this, this few shops, I realized that there is a massive demand for customization with the right technology these days, and that's why I launched Etna Research 2 years ago.
Interesting. So in terms of obviously what you've launched with Etna Research, can you just maybe explain a little bit about, what you're doing exactly for the listeners before we get into it?
Absolutely. So Etna Research solved a very specific problem that any business leader in asset wealth management is facing these days. So we know that it's very hard to put together a big investment, an IT team, a data science team as well. We know building IT infrastructure for high performance activity is hard. And we know as well that the data zoo is hard to crack and put together. So these are, I would say, clusters of problems that when you see the entire picture is very complicated. And I face it myself as well. So when we started the firm was really about, can we crack all these problems at the same time? And so it means bringing an infrastructure that allows the clients to really build solutions, strategies, no matter if your use case is ultra sophisticated, like for an high performance hedge fund, but it could also be for a more vanilla use case where a wealth manager is trying to build certain type of capabilities, and it might have some partial capabilities, or it doesn't want to spend the capex to build that capabilities, or it doesn't want to spend high opex to run these capabilities. So that's kind of where we play nicely in the use cases.
And how come you think that obviously you can get this research done in a better way or a faster way than these firms or clients?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, everybody knows the pain, and it takes a lot of time to really build a proper institutional infrastructure, and it is a process that never ends. So starting from this clear need, The reality is that then the second key KPI is really about how much do I get from my investments. And most of the people out there are facing the struggle to measure this return in terms of infrastructure development, data infrastructure, execution, and so on. So that's where we play a kind of partner role where we don't want to replace anyone. It's really about enhance or being relevant for what you don't want to build internally, or if you want to have a kind of a second opinion type of thing, or another angle that it's kind of a lateral thinking angle here. So we're trying to be orthogonal or uncorrelated to what you have internally. That's the key aspect to really go and get the trust of the client.
Do you find that you work in a specific type of research or in a specific type of you know, asset class or market, or have you managed to essentially create this kind of research for all areas of the industry?
So it goes back to our background. Myself and David Coe is the chairman, but also was my boss in the past. We've been exposed to pretty much all the asset classes, style, not HFT. Obviously, this is not a business for HFT, but everything that some people call it mid frequency, lower frequency. So that's kind of the space we play in. And the reality, we're obviously stronger on the macro asset class menu, although we are actually now recently onboarding as well on the equity side, because again, it's really about the pain to build a proper institutional infrastructure first. And then, you actually, it's something like I did my CapEx. So now I can add crypto or vol, analytics to build, again, solutions for the clients. So it's really about this kind of first investments. And now we're branching out from our core initial use cases, where mainly in the foreign exchange space.
Interesting. And do you find that the reason that you're obviously, it's as you said, these things take a lot of time. Do you think that obviously your firm has this advantage because you've already got the team in place, you've got the people who can do the work, and it's already set up? Is that the advantage? It's a time advantage.
I would say is really about trying to have an infrastructure that could scale massively, compared to trying to build an infrastructure that fits only one use case. Typically, in a business environment, you want to get the job done in a certain time window, but typically it's not designed to be strategic. It tends to be designed to be tactical, although they claim it's strategic, but the reality is very hard to do it. Now, you need to have a technology angle and investments, which is a multi-year horizon investments. And I haven't met so many firms that plan 3 years ahead, or 2, 3 years ahead in financial services. So that's kind of where we play our role. So we want to be useful at that stage that you realize, hey, it's going to take ages to put together a great team. It's going to take ages to actually build something to put strategy solutions on top. So that's kind of the role we play in this environment.
It's very interesting. Is it a situation where a client comes to you and you create this infrastructure or this research, and then it's a evolving process where you stay working with them for a long period of time and you're tweaking things for them? Or is it a process where you do one piece of work and you pass it on to them to kind of implement?
So obviously, at the beginning, there was a lot of client, discovery about what I call it the primitives, or what clients care. So we figure out exactly all the style you want to cover, the hard risk constraints you want to cover, all these things that are relevant for the clients, and it took time to map them, all of them. And but our experience so far has been that the needs are always evolving. So you start with A and you end up with all the letter of the alphabet pretty soon. Because again, the key aspect is how can I be fast? How can I avoid CapEx? How can I keep the OpEx low? These are I would say, the business KPIs. It doesn't matter if it's a super uh, quantum AI, whatever, and or like basic quantitative research is really about investments, OpEx, outcome, and these things are evolving over time.
Yeah. And on your website and on LinkedIn, you mentioned that you're involved in frontier AI. Can you maybe explain to me what that exactly means to you?
So there are two pieces of our vision. The first is based really on our expertise to be in the trenches, understanding the friction of the markets, and trying to build an infrastructure that could handle adaptivity. Most of the last 10, 20 years, great successes were, based on, I would say, more static approaches. Markets in the last 10 years, given, democratization, access, speed, tools, computing, is changing very fast. Now, maybe a value investor might say that, the key aspects are still the same over the last 10, 20, 30 years. The reality is, in order to produce, returns or help producing better returns, is really like the key aspect for us is the adaptability. And that means a universe of techniques that are computationally heavy and require, again, the infrastructure, big push and big build. And that's the first key aspect. So AI in capital markets, you will never use, a generative AI model to predict the markets. It's not designed to handle that kind of use case. It's great for producing great tests or kind of sensible doc, but it's impossible to use the LLM or anything generative AI related to forecast data. So you need to go back to how to, again, bring the adaptability piece, which is the key, the first component. And the second one, which is a little bit more, I would say, not in the radars yet, is really about how we interact with research. So historically, it's been a lot of work on, people running code and so on. We think this evolving into something which is much more human, which means voice, which means text. And that is the key missing piece in the industry, how to make research human again. Because the big push after '08 has been all about algorithmization, complexity, and so on. But the average user, the senior leader, wants to have something which is much more straightforward, and he talks the same language. So how to bring the business language into quantitative research, that's the second thing we want to crack.
Interesting. So the AI is playing a huge part in your work already, I guess.
Again, in different ways. One is more evident, the other one is still, in a way, in stealth. It's much more productivity tools, but the idea is also to how to create, again, use cases on the fly, and how to be fast, how to be, plugged fast with clients, how to essentially destroy the CapEx cycle for the clients. How can I reduce the pain for the client? That's the way. That's why it's easier if you understand what the other angle is looking for.
Yeah. And I think your point on the human element is really interesting because, of course, to be able to raise funds, you know, your clients are going to need to be able to explain that to people who don't necessarily understand these strategies in that level of detail.
Yeah, the key is, I mean, obviously now we work a lot with funds, but the reality is that there is a big push also in, family offices. big, trading groups or treasuries from big corporations, and they realize that a lot of knowledge can be used as well there, with the same cutting edge approaches, similar technology of the best of the world. The key aspect is really um, to make all of these very high IQ activities explainable and digestible and usable by people that don't need to know, the full menu of the quant world to use it. So this is for us the key aspect. Even if you're a sophisticated guys, once you get, senior, you really go back to kind of business KPIs and simple and straightforward ways to take decision. It shouldn't be more complex. It's just that you understand what is the world around you. But that's the key aspect for us.
Interesting. I know you talk. I've seen on some of your LinkedIn you've talked about agentic AI. Can you talk a bit about that and what it is and how far away you think that we are from that?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of related to our second, the second point of our vision. Obviously, I'm a deep, passion about technology, and we have seen this massive trend over the last few years, and the capabilities you can actually, um, win practical use cases that you can implement with this technology. Now, the problem in finance and in other high accuracy businesses is that if you need a very high accuracy use case, these technologies are very tricky, which again, they work for certain type of basic, information extraction, and, uh, text summarization, all these kind of, I would say, basic use cases, which of course they boost a bit to the productivity, but they're not radical. So you still have this co-pilot that is in and out with you, in and out with you, which I'm not sure we humans are going to be happy to be constantly, back and forth bombarded by a co-pilot. So I think this is kind of where we are today, in terms of use cases, but it's mainly, text analytics on steroids. And recently there was, this kind of claim that now Perplexity, Anthropic, big tech firms, they can go into in the trenches of the financial vertical. But again, they are not adding the biggest problem with these tools is reasoning. They don't think like humans, right? They look like they think like humans, and they produce something that might look like good. But then again, coming back to our point about, high performance teams, people that are super strong on the deep knowledge of what they do, they easily spot problems. And that's what was our experience. So the next step was really like, what can we get from the agentic AI and how can we bring to the next level in finance, which again goes back to my point about agentic AI is really for us like a front end, it's the distribution, is the human touch, but don't let these machines doing, the hard work, certain hard work that you require, where you require very high precision, which is again the key aspect about bringing your own heuristics and experience and merging them with generative AI instead of relying on the generative AI, industry heuristics, which are typically bad outcome.
So you're saying that obviously your expertise over the last, many years has been the human experience is still just as important, and then blending it with AI.
Yes. So the in essence, what we do at Etna Research is to get, decades of how to build solutions, strategies, indices, and how we can merge this with agentic AI on steroids. So the typical use case we see is people, they have an idea we talk with a client and they have an idea A, and then after 2 weeks they say, but actually I'm not, maybe, I was not clear on that requirements, and maybe this is what is important for me, which is B or C. And that is the part where you struggle to, if you just have a quantitative approach and back and forth with the clients. You really want to provide the human engagement that the agentic could, facilitate the sales engineering kind of way, the sales engineering part of what in Silicon Valley these days call it the forward deployment engineer, which is a very high demand job these days, but in essence is a sales engineer on steroids. And that's why the friction, that's why people don't close deals and so on, because you come up with A, clients wants to B, you're not fast enough to, or you have to reinvent the wheel to get B, and you don't close the deal. So that's for us where the agentic side and becomes our frontman in a way, to simplify the client's friction.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I've seen a lot of people using it for, software development and things like that. But you're using it in a very different way. On, as you said, the front end.
Yeah, I mean, just to conclude on that, I'm not saying there is wrong use cases for software development. There are certain things are relevant, but typically are not, again, in the high precision, low latency side. Some certain type of clients, they're not going to use massively these technologies, or they rely a bit, but it's useful for, I would say most of the 80/20, right? 80 could be covered by these things, but a 20, which is where actually people make money and requires high precision. And then you need very, very, very senior people involved to make sure that everything is aligned. And so that's kind of the angle. I think in general, you can cover the average use case, but not necessarily the super extreme high precision problem.
Interesting. And I know you mentioned to me that you view AI as the biggest boost in productivity in the financial industry, in financial history. Um, how do you think firms involved in capital markets are dealing with the future of work and automation? And, how are they going to deal with this?
Now, it's important to state that, this, looks like a recent trend. It's been the trend over the last 20, 15 years, because it's very related to how you can handle your computational advantage. So everything is becoming much more computational. Again, coming back to my point about adaptability, is the key aspect for us to be agnostic about what happens, but you need to be adaptive about what happens around. So it is not new. It is always been a constant trend. Obviously, with generative AI, certain things could be boosted. But the key aspect, again, the things we see among in our networks really is really about, from the most sophisticated to, the long only guys and the wealth managers, is really there is an appetite to accelerate, and there is an appetite to realize that, in the past was really about, I build it myself. I try to do as much as I can internally, with all the risk of, ages to build together. Pushing risk is always there, and then, out of control budgets. So people are much more. We see much more appetite in the last years. The reality is also I think there is much more also appetite to work strategically with external partners, which that's why we saw as well. We have seen this kind of acceleration of requests and demands, because people say, "Hey, I have to solve this problem, and that's my investment horizon, capex horizon, and I have to figure out what happen if I do, or if I work with an external firms in team up."
It's super interesting. And I know that you mentioned to me, before the interview that Sam Altman said that it'd be possible to build a one-person billion-dollar company. And you think that might actually come from finance. Like, How far away do you think we are from that? Do you think that's something in the near horizon, or how far away do you think we are?
So obviously, that's maybe it's not one, but it's three, something like that. So the reality is also because you want to share the pain of running a company with someone else. It's part of the journey. But the reality is, obviously here is much broader than certain use cases on what we do with capital market. But finance has two great advantages. First is global, is a very historically a high margin business, and it's global and it's big. So you need to start, with a very big, total addressable market. And the incumbents, it's very hard to change the DNA of incumbents. So you can be faster, they recognize what you're doing, but potentially maybe the option is to buy you. But it's very hard to compete, at least for in some situations. But all these tools that are out there these days, and technologies allows you to do it. So now you can do it because even like from a business management perspective, HR, accounting, finance, marketing. There are so many activities that these days can be structured and more automated than just 3, 4, 5 years ago. So when you run a company, that is part of the thing, right? Where to find new leads, how can I simplify the conversion of leads in clients, and optimizing the business. So that's kind of the running the business part, which is obviously easier. And so that's definitely the angle where we see this is possible. Then of course it's the product, right? What you do, we do, let's say, solutions for asset and wealth managers. Someone is doing something else, compliance and so on, credit and so on. The reality, again, if you know your own heuristics and you understand certain type of mechanism, and certain type of inefficiencies, then you can really combine your heuristic and AI and ML with the generative AI piece, which becomes a little bit your distribution advantage. You don't need 300 people in New York, London, and Tokyo, but you really have something out there that is able to actually solve the problem of the clients. 24/7, always there, always ready to talk. This is the angle that Sam Altman, I guess, behind the scene was really referring to, which is like running a business is much easier and can be automating, and building the distribution of your products. You need still to build the product and be good at that. But you have to distribute the product somehow. So that's kind of where I see certain functions can be massively scaled with these new technologies.
And you talked about pain there, obviously, I know you've been in this industry a while and leading your own firm. How have you survived in this industry and, doing so well in this industry for so long? Like what kind of rituals do you do, or are you into health or into fitness, or how do you keep yourself, you know, mentally focused and performing?
This is a fantastic question because I always say, even to young folks, I mean, it's an insane marathon. So first, you need really this kind of strong determination to achieve your goals, and you're gonna have, like a good strategy. We always say has a lot of drawdowns. So you're successful because of the pains. You are not successful because of the wins. So this is the number one rule, to realize that if you don't have pains, you have no wins. And then of course, again, determination. So you have to recover your life drawdown, every quarter, every year. But yeah, your point is very important because I think, especially in the entrepreneurial side, you need to think like an athlete, and you need to think that you need to be mentally fit, physically fit, having a life that is very, we know that it's easy to make it unbalanced, but you have to find the balance, which means, focus on the family, focus on your private life, finding the time to dedicate your brain to something which is outside work. And when I was in London, the firm is in London. We are spread out in Central Europe on the team side, but it's really to balance this the stress, right, that you might have from work and delivery and deadlines. So I think that's for us. That's what I learned over time. That's what I didn't learn at the beginning. Was all about pushing the boundaries, and then realize that if you have to play this game for a longer time, you cannot play the game of, oh, I work 15 hours per day, Saturday included, because it doesn't work. It's great for some Y Combinator, tech bros mentality I've seen in US. I'm not saying we don't work. I work mentally, a lot of hours when I'm outside the office, but it's really about finding the time to actually take a break and focusing also on the things that are important in life. And yes, I think in my case, I don't have so many hobbies. Yeah, I play tennis. I love to go to the gym, and all these things are important to have in your routine. And of course, great relationships. So I'm lucky that over time I developed a fantastic network of professionals that genuinely like what they do. This is the key aspect. And we help each others, and we learn from each others, and that's kind of I guess the never-ending growth process that you should have, instead of trying to settle down on certain type of business goal. Is really about growing together and helping even competitors. I mean, I've friends in they're competitors, and we help each others. And the reality is, it's never a game of me against you, but it's really like me against myself. And I always stress this: is always trying to be better than yourself. And sometimes we forget this. Having these elements in your mindset are very important to, again, to play the drawdown. They're always going. We're always going to face in this business.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's right. It's the marathon idea, not the sprint idea. So yeah, I think that's great. And we always ask this, but what do you think your broader purpose is within work?
For me, for the firm and for my colleagues, is really about, can we build something that has a massive global impact? Can we build something that's simplifying um, life of our clients, but at the same time, can we be remembered to do something iconic? So this is something that to me is like, you need to have this vision of building something iconic to really then manage the quarter of a quarter, because otherwise it's like, if you don't have this kind of mission every day written somewhere, it's very hard to really do the tactical thing that you have to do. So you need to have this kind of things. And the second, again, point, and this is something more recent, because I had now the chance, I have my firm, so I can move freely on certain activities, the give back. So the importance of, we have an association in the south of Italy of technologies and entrepreneurs, giving back, building new ventures, helping other people, like joining this kind of journeys. It gives me personally a lot of fulfillment as well. So of course, I have the time limitation that doesn't allow me to do a proper massive impact, but we try to do it properly anyway. And we are a very good group of people. It's called Puglia Tech, so it's kind of an association in the south, in the boot of it, the south of Italy, connected to the major hubs, San Francisco, London, Singapore, Riyadh, and Tokyo, and bringing new businesses, new operational operative companies, and here technology company. And it's fun, but it gives me a lot of joy to see other people trying to do it and trying to have an impact in other industry, from prop tech to clear tech, travel tech. We have seen it all. But that is, to me, is kind of, I would say, the the key aspect, to give back to people that deserve to go to find their way. This is actually one of the key aspects in everything we do, even internally, pushing to the limit people that actually have potential. And everybody, the beauty of here as well is that everybody could really build. It's like a scientist. You want to be remembered to do something meaningful to society, and that's a very typical scientist point of view. And because again, we are all. I mean, David is an astrophysicist. I'm an engineer as well. We spend our life in industrial and academic research. We like this idea of providing an impact in something that people see that has impact. I think that is, for us, is very important.
I think it's amazing. I've really enjoyed the conversation, Marco. I think the topic around AI and automation is amazing. And thank you so much for your time. I think we're running out of time, so yeah, I'll say thank you there.
Thank you very much, Augusta. Talk soon.